Now let's look at the staffing procedure. The staffing process consists of the following series of steps. We have the human resource planning, we have recruitment, we have selection, induction and orientation, training and development, performance appraisal, employment decisions, and finally we have separations. So human resource planning. The planned output of any organization will require a systematic deployment of human resources at various levels. To be able to do this, the engineer manager will have to involve himself in human resource planning. This will be done in conjunction with the efforts of the human resource officer if the company has one. Human resource planning may involve three activities. First, forecasting, which an assessment of the future human resource needs in relation to the current capabilities of the organization. We have programming, that's the second activity. This involves, or this means translating the forecasted human resource needs to personal objectives and goals. And finally, we have evaluation and control, which refers to monitoring human resource action plans and evaluating their success. The forecasting of manpower needs may be undertaken using any of the following quantitative methods. Number one, you have the time series method, which uses historical data to develop forecasts of the future. Number two, or the second one, is the explanatory or causal models, which are attempts to identify the major variables that are related to or have caused particular past conditions, and then use these current measures of these variables to predict future conditions. So you have you can use either regression model for this one, or regression analysis, or econometric models, or you just using time series to analyze the business cycle or a return of the business cycle. The third methods for forecasting is the monitoring method. So these are those that provide early warning signals of significant changes in established patterns and relationships so that the engineering manager can assess the likely impact and plan responses if required. When different positions have been identified to be necessary and then decisions to fill them up has been made, the next logical step is recruitment. Recruitment refers to attracting qualified persons to apply for vacant positions in the company so that those who are best suited to serve the company may be selected. Now, when management wants to fill up certain vacancies, the following sources of applicants may be tapped. The first one is organizations' current employees. Some of their employees may be qualified to occupy positions higher than the ones they are occupying, so they should be considered. This is a common practice in government offices, wherein they first look for their look at their current ranks and current employees to be promoted and occupy higher positions. So if you can't find uh, any of your current employees to be qualified for a position, that's when you do external hiring. You hire from outside. So you first do advertising. Conventionally, this is newspaper and radio and TV, or radio and newspapers. But the current trend is using social media because it is cheaper and faster. Next is schools. So these are good sources of applicants. Some schools conduct job fair on the final semester, especially for their graduating students. So representatives of companies come to school and interview applicants inside the campus. Next is referrals from employees. So current employees sometimes recommend relatives and friends who may be qualified. So what our experience is that our alumni who are positioned in various companies contact us and ask for information about our graduating students or our graduates who might be interested in working for them. So this is some form of referrals. Another one is using recruitment firms. So some companies are specifically formed to assist client firms in recruiting qualified persons. So there are firms who does that. So if my organization does not have a very specialized human resource team, so I can tap on these recruitment firms to do the applicant screening and hiring for me. Last one is competitors. These are useful sources of qualified but underutilized personnel. So your competitors might have a qualified personnel but is underutilized in their current company. This may be a useful source, but this is frowned upon in the industry because this is considered as piracy. You're pirating the the employees of competing firms. For entry-level personnel, the engineering manager will likely rely on schools, advertising, and referrals. When recruiting managers, the reliable source are if you are looking for someone to occupy a management position, the reliable source could be the current employees, or you don't need to train them because they're already oriented in the job. Then you will have recruitment firms and competitors. Selection refers to the act of choosing from those that are available the individuals most likely to succeed on the job. A requisite for effective selection is the preparation of list indicating that an adequate pool of candidates is available. The purpose of selection is to evaluate each candidate and to pick the most suited for the position available. Selection procedures may be simple or complex depending on the costs of the wrong decision. If management picks the wrong person and the subsequent effect to the organization is negligible, then selection process is made simple. This is true in the case of a construction laborers when or where a review of their application is done. So if you're just hiring for a construction worker, so within few days or even few hours, the applicants are informed of the decision whether they hired or not. When a position under consideration involves special skills, then you need a more elaborate selection process to before you can hire. Ways of determining qualifications of a job candidate. Companies use any or all of the following in determining the qualifications of a candidate. First is looking at the application blanks. The application blank provides information about person's characteristics such as age, marital status, address, educational background, experience, and special interests. After reading the application blank, the evaluator will have some basis on whether or not to proceed further in evaluating the applicant. Especially for the case of educational background, if this usually this is the most important one. If you are hired to do a if you will be hired to do a complex task, then educational background will be checked thoroughly and experience if you are to determine your fitness to the job. After looking at the application blanks, companies do uh, interview of the references. So references are those written by previous employers, coworkers, teachers, and club officers. So these are this could be written or oral referral. So their statements of these previous employees, coworkers, and teachers may provide some vital information on the character of the applicant. So in our experience, we have employers calling our office to ask for information about the our graduate, how they did or how they performed when they were still our students, the characters, ability to work in groups, those information. So when you do apply for a job and you write your references, make sure to inform these previous employers, co-workers, or teachers about uh, your intention to put them as part of your references. Third one is interview. So employers conduct interview to determine uh, the qualifications of job candidates, so they can ask relevant questions, especially related to the job. The final way is to conduct testing. This involves evaluation of the future behavior or performance of an individual. So there are two types of tests. One is psychological test, and the other one is the physical examination. So psychological test is an objective standard measure of a sample behavior. So you have the aptitude test, or your ability or potential ability to learn. You have the performance test, your measure of your current knowledge of a subject. You have the personality test, measure your personality traits such as dominance, sociability, conformity, ability to recognize authority, ability to work in teams. So these are social characteristics. The last one is the physical examination, the type of test given to assess physical health of an applicant. This is to assure that the health of the applicant is adequate to meet the job requirements. So these are the steps or the ways to determine the qualifications of a job candidate. You can do all of this, or some, but in our experience, we usually do all four.